Hey folks, Palanthis here. Today we're going to be showing how to switch your computer over from using a swap partition to using a swap file. This allows you to reclaim the space that was assigned to your swap partition and move it over to some other partition on your system. I will be doing this demonstration with Reborn OS running XFCE, but this will apply to any of the other DEs and any other Arch or Arch-based distributions. So stay with me and we'll get started. Okay, to start out here, let's take a look at our current setup. We can do a terminal here, and with the command swapon, we can see that we currently have dev SDA5, 3.9 gigs assigned as our swap. And if we look at our disk utility, we can also see that the default installation of Reborn, which is what this is, created an extended partition and then created the swap partition within that extended space. So we're going to go through and undo all of that. To get started, our first step is going to be from a terminal, and these commands all need to be run with su, not sudo. So su over to root, and our first command is fallocate. -L. The size, I'm going to go 2048 megs or 2 gigs, and then what we're allocating, which in this case is /swapfile. The next thing we need to do is change the permissions on that file so that it is not globally readable. To do that, we'll do a chmod 600 /swapfile, and we will make swap, mkswap, on swapfile. That will, spelling counts there. That will give it the correct swap format for Linux to be able to use it correctly. Okay, and finally we can go ahead and swap on that swap file. And now if we run swap on again, we can see that now we've got 2 swap files. So we're using a swap file and a swap partition. Not ideal, unless you're running some crazy server, which we're not. So our next step is going to be to go in and remove the swap partition. The first thing we need to do here is swap off, and we do that by addressing it by its device name. So dev /SDA5. Okay, and now if we run swap on again, we've only got swap file mounted. Alright, so that's good. Now we need to make these changes persistent by modifying our etc fstab file. In order to do that, you can use a text editor, Genie, or Notepad QQ, Mousepad, LeafPad, whatever you like. I'm just going to do it with Nano. What we're changing is the same, however you decide to change it. So what I'm going to do is come down here, and I am now going to add the following: /swapfile none swap defaults 0 0. So that's our file system, swap file, mount point, none, type, swap, options, defaults, dump, 0, pass, 0. You can see the headers up here for what those values we just put in there are. The next thing we're going to do is come up here to our old swap partition, and we're just going to take it out. Okay, and Control O to write the file, Enter to accept the file name, Control X to close. There we go. So we've removed our swap partition from fstab, added our swap file so that the change is persistent through reboots. Now let's reclaim that space that was used by the swap partition. So there are a number of ways we can do this. I'm just going to use the disk utility again because I'm lazy and it works. So what we need to do is we come in here to first our actual swap partition, not the extended partition, our swap partition, and we're going to delete it. Okay. Next, we're going to go to this partition 3, which which is an extended partition, and we're going to delete it. Okay, now we've got this chunk of free space at the end of the disk, and that's what we're going to reclaim. I'm going to move it right here to root, which you can see is mounted as slash file system root. So what we're going to do is just go to our options, resize, drag this slider bar all the way over, and hit resize. There we go. So now we've got our root is 275 gigs. We've got no free space at the end of the drive. Let's go ahead and give it a reboot and make sure that these changes persist through a reboot. Okay, so we've booted back up. Let's go ahead and log in and make sure that our changes have stayed. First we'll open a terminal, we'll do swapon. Swap file, size 2 gigs, used 0 bytes. That is perfect. Let's take a look at disks. Root partition, 275 gigs, no extra free space at the end of the drive. So there we go. That is how you change from a swap partition to a swap file. If you have an installation of Reborn or Arch or whatever, and you simply don't create a swap partition during setup, which is what I usually do, I just don't even create one, and then once I've got my environment kind of set the way I want, I just go through those steps for creating the swap file and adding it to fstab, and that's all you need to do. Then you've got some swap available if your computer should need it, which in my experience on a lot of modern computers, it never even gets used. They've got enough memory. So there you go. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.